What is up, you guys? It's Preshek Addict. We have a completely new looking set. It's been a long time since we made any videos, and I do apologize for my absence, but we are back. We've been, busy working on things, and hopefully we can get some cooler stuff for you guys in the future. So today we are going to talk about the G45. What is the Glock 45, right? It is basically a crossover. It is the Glock 17 frame, essentially. So you have the full-size frame, the full-size grip, and then you have the Glock 19, a more compact slide configuration. So what makes this unique? It's similar to like the Glock 19X, which was originally made as like a military contract pistol for the MHS, which they did not win. Wah, 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 sick fanboys, okay. So basically, a lot of people actually don't like this pistol because they're like, what's the point of such a longer grip, shorter slide? I'm losing muzzle velocity. I can't conceal it because the grip is sticking out more when you conceal carry appendix. Completely understand, and I think I actually don't mind. I actually don't carry this with the extension. That'll make it much longer. I like to carry it flush. Maybe I'll throw an extension in the sidecar. So basically, I think you don't get it until like you handle it. You know what I mean? Sometimes people that have like some bigger hands. I'm more of like a medium hand guy, but bigger hands, you might be able to get the full grip. And on the 19, maybe your fingers are hanging off. You don't like the grip. You don't get a good draw on it. But I see this as almost like a duty gun in a way. There's a multitude of different explanations of why the G45 is, has like a place in the whole lineup. Some people say for law enforcement because, they sit in vehicles all day long, so they have their, out the waistband, so it's a little bit short of a muzzle, not poking into you when you're sitting in your squad car, getting in and out of it daily. Some other people say, you can add a compensator. Let's say you have the Parker Mountain machine, Harrington comp, what's that? The Radian afterburner, right? There's a multitude of comps you can put on here, which would give you, the length of, let's say, a Glock 17 or a Glock 34, but you have it compensated without adding that extra length, right? You get a Glock 17, you throw in that compensator, now it's a Glock 34 length. Check my notes. We haven't done this for a while, okay. So for me, the G45 was one of the first pistols I actually owned, so it has a special place in my heart. And today we can kind of go over the state of the build currently, right? This was slide cut by Wager Machine Works. He does great work, fast turnaround times, great pricing. And we have Ameriglow iron sights. And then we have the Holosun 508T. I actually did used to have an RMR on here. That optic is currently on a different firearm. And I've really been enjoying the 508T because of the multiple reticles it has, right? We have a circle dot, just a single 2 MOA dot. We have the circle dot without the dot in the middle. There's a lot of options. Also, there's like solar compatibility, and also there's a side loading battery tray. Now, to me, once you've run RMRs for a while, you want to switch the battery. It's kind of a pain because you have to take it off to load the battery back in from the bottom. Mount your RMR again. This includes the Loctite. You might have to re-zero, or you want to check your zero. It's like a pain, right? And then we are running the Surefire X300 Turbo. So Turbo has picked up a lot of hype recently. It's one of the newer lights from Surefire. I used to run the regular, I used to run like TLR7A, then I've run it with no light. I've run it with the TLR1, and I've basically landed on the X300 Turbo. But so this one sacrifices some of the lumens, but gives you a much stronger candela. So when you do, actuate this light, it gives you a very strong throw, and it's very focused in like a specific area, let's say. This is like an easier way to describe it. So next up we have this Terran Tactical Magwell. I feel like with Glock Gen 5s, you can totally do without a magwell, to be honest, because they're already flared out a bit, which really helps with your reloads. But I just happened to find this one and I gave it a try. A little touch of FD because that's my favorite color. And we have the Handle It grips. So these are actually sent to me by Handle It, and I gave them a try. This texture is it's like one of their more aggressive ones. This one is very similar to, like sandpaper or skateboard grip tape, if you will. And, I think this one's like a very big game changer because Glock's, stipple texture, it's, a couple of dots, little like nipples, as you could say. Glock, it's Gaston's nipples that they put on here. And, once your hands are wet or sweaty or just you get a bad draw, it's not the best that locks in your hand. But, something as very simple as stick-on grips, you can actually get a really solid, like once your hand like touches it, it's almost like your hand molecules cling onto the the sandpaper, and like now your firearm's like not going anywhere. Very nice of a detail. It's much cheaper than stippling, and you can always take them off and replace them with a different texture if this texture wasn't for you. Now, one thing I really do like about Handle-It grips is they always include these tabs right here where, you know, like an accelerator cut or whatever would normally go. So this really helps with like your indexing for your support hand thumb. If your other finger that rests off the trigger when you're not firing, there's another piece for that as well. Very nice little detail. So shout out Handle-It grips. Another little spot we have is also the OEM extended slide stop right here. So that little bump right there is a lifesaver for me. You know, as I mentioned, I have medium hands, I would call them, small, medium. They're not like little tiny hands where you can't reach any controls. They're not these massive hands where you can make like a Glock 19 look like a 43X or something. But so for me, I actually cannot drop the slide as well without having to break my grip. So with that extra bump, I think the tab lets me, you know, hit my thumb and I can release that slide very well without breaking my grip, especially when you're in a firing grip and you reload. Sometimes people have to, you know, slightly adjust that grip just to hit the slide stop and then readjust their grip back into their firing grip. And so for me, that little bump is actually just all I needed. I've actually, you know, I ran the OEM one for so long and got away with it. And then I also have had the Kagger works where it's like raised and out the way, if that makes sense. I know a lot of people, sometimes they ride the slide stop. So for a lot of people, I know that final round might actually like not lock back and you get one of these and then you have to hit your reload, right? For me, that one did not work out as well simply because I have these medium hands. I feel like the Kagger works slide stop, all I did was raise the slide stop even further than what my thumb can reach. So I actually got rid of that. And so I think this has been the best setup for me for my Glock 45. And our last piece of the puzzle is going to be, we are completely clear by the way, little safety check for you guys, right? Our last piece is the Overwatch Precision Tech trigger. So basically this is a trigger that I have recently got actually. I've been running the stock trigger this whole time. I know some guys like to get their Glocks that throw in like a Toonie or something like Apex, all this other stuff. I've been running the Glock stock trigger this whole time. I really don't mind it. I've been around a lot better triggers like the Apex for the MMP. I already know, you know, who's watching this and is gonna say something about that, but that's a great trigger. For example, you can tune it, it's a flat trigger. The wall, you can reach it right away, very crisp break and everything. So I really like flat triggers, for example. The Glock stock one is, you know, it's a curved trigger. So sometimes I find myself, you know, just like hooking it to the left. You know, every right hand shooter kind of has that issue, but sometimes you hook it to the left a little bit and a flat trigger helps me pull straight to the rear and keep that, you know, keep your shots very straight. So I do want to say, you know, I haven't gotten too many rounds through this trigger yet, but once I did, you know, update it, it's a very significantly different feel to it in a positive way, right? It's still gonna be your, you know, your Glock trigger that's kind of sticky, kind of spongy, kind of whatever you want to call it, right? But I think overall, it's more of just like a shoe upgrade, if that makes sense. It's like the trigger shoe is now a lot more appealing to like pull when your finger rests on it. So I can't just sit here and tell you that, you know, once you throw in this trigger, it now feels like a 2011, but you know, it's a lot better. It's an improvement for sure, I can say that. So I think in the future, you know, I'm gonna do a little review, you know, test the weights. I do have a Glock performance trigger as well. We can go through the different pull weights of the stock, the Overwatch, and then the performance trigger. We can see, you know, like where the trigger actually falls and, you know, where it actually breaks. I do believe it gives you a different feel. So we can definitely go over that sometime. How do I carry the G34? Fuck. So how do I carry the G45? I actually mostly run it with this tier 1 MSP holster for the X300, which is part of the reason why I switched to X300, because anything with an X300, it's basically like a universal holster. So because I also run like CZs, for example, and you know, the aftermarket on that isn't the best, it's easier to just have one universal holster for me because I can just run every firearm in that as long as I toss the X300 on. And because it's appendix, I really don't mind the extra barrel length. So I like to carry it in this configuration with a spare mag on the side, usually with a mag extension, because this part does not really print as much as more length over here by the grip. So another configuration that I like to have would be this Tenacore holster. So sometimes you don't feel like carrying a sidecar. Sometimes you want to give the little boys on there, you know, a break, or you want to toss this in your nightstand and you don't want it to be some massive rig. So I like to have this as well, and it's just very simple 10 core X300 holster. They make great holsters in my opinion. They have like a built-in kind of wedge, if you can kind of see it. It's made for appendix to help push off of your thigh, your crotch, you know, whatever it is. It's almost like those like wedges that Tier 1 sells. Also, people, what's that other company? They make that. It's like a sack. They have, I think, tactical sack, you know, whatever. I can't remember their name. You get to like stick it on like Velcro or something like that, and it's like, you know, it helps rest between where, you know, your appendix holster would sit. So why do I like the G45? I think it's got a great balance to it. It's something you just don't understand it until you know, you get on the range and actually, you know, shoot it around and stuff. I think once you have, like, you know, I've had a G34, for example, and with the G34 and the X300, every time I did like appendix draws to practice dry fire, it felt like I had to bring out like an entire like yardstick just to like clear like the holster. I don't know why that is, even though the X300 is the same length as where the barrel would sit for the, you know, the Glock 34. But I think having that shorter muzzle, it almost reduces it just enough weight where you feel that you have much more like control over the pistol without it feeling like such a long, like, you know, like yardstick. Where it's like if you drew to shoot someone at 7 yards for self-defense, you damn near have it like to his chest, like point blank, right? So I really enjoy the balance of the G34. I think it's something very unique that you don't see too often. But then, you know, now we have like Walther PDP does a crossover. I think SIG has one as well. The X Macro, for example. So I guess it's trendy now, but, you know, some of you guys hated on it before. I liked it from the start. So thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys checking out the video. Shout out, you know, all the guys. We got Bobby Dynamite, Nate, there's like 3 Nates, you know, like Wager, Impact, all the guys. So I really appreciate you guys checking back in. Hopefully we can get some more videos cranked out for you guys soon. And you can also find me on Instagram at PressCheckAddict. I'm always down to talk. I don't feel like I'm one of these crazy like gun tuber influencers that, you know, you can send them a message and they're never gonna see it, right? So definitely just feel free to shoot a comment, shoot a message. We can have a little conversation. You know, I'm always open for it. So I'll see you guys at the next one. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be safe, have fun, be safe. Take care. That's the thumbnail. Clip it.